Welcome everybody to the April 14th meeting of the Commission on Aging Well. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And first agenda item is to approve the minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at those. Are there any additions or corrections?
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Do I hear a second? I would second. All in favor? Opposed? Passed. Okay, I do not see any public appearances, so we will move right on to our first agenda item with the case management update. Ladies?
And let me just say, you all got in your packets the Dane County case management standards that gives you a little background about Dane County and how they fund this program. I thought it was a good time to bring the caseworkers, social workers back up in front of everybody since Sarah's transitioned sort of part-time to the police department, and we brought Katie on board. And things are really changing the way we case manage people. So I've asked each of them to just give a little synopsis of a couple clients and situations that they're dealing with currently. So maybe let's have Sarah start, and then I'll bring your thing up, Amy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna talk about one of my senior center clients first. Excuse me. That has really declined over the last, I would say, the last 9 months. So he is 72 years old. He was referred to me about couple years ago by a home health social worker. He had had a couple of pretty severe falls, one of them down about 15 concrete stairs. He had been drinking during that fall. I'm not sure about the other one, but in any case, he had a couple of subdural hematomas. He was hospitalized in a nursing home, and he was ready to be discharged, so the social worker referred him for home-delivered meals. He lived with his daughter, who was 21 years old, going to school, and helping to take care of him at that point. She was caring, helping more because he had just been in the hospital and nursing home, with a dog too, just a small dog. So he started on home-delivered meals for about a year and a half. And then when we reopened last year in June, post-COVID, well, sort of post-COVID, he really didn't qualify for home-delivered meals anymore because he had improved. He wasn't homebound anymore. So he started coming into the senior center 5 days a week on the bus for lunch. He was at that point a very social, sarcastic, funny guy, maybe get on your nerves a little bit, but he was kind of always in the middle, sort of the center of attention. About January, February, he started declining neurologically. He was feeling more forgetful, his balance was off, he just wasn't feeling well. He was kind of reverting back to how he was when he had fallen, or after he had fallen. So he noticed some changes. We noticed some changes. He kind of was acting more depressed or feeling more depressed, was calling in and canceling more often, saying he just didn't feel up to coming. So fast forward to March, he and his daughter got an eviction notice from their apartment. She went through the court process, got an attorney from legal aid. The eviction was not reversed. So April 11th, so Monday, actually, was the forced eviction date. So I had talked with, a couple weeks ago, this client had called me and said that the sheriff had come and given them their eviction notice. Their forced date was April 11th. So I reached out, contacted the sheriff's deputy who's in charge of serving the evictions. He realized and recognized that my client was vulnerable and would really not do well if he had to be homeless. So he was able to, actually the forced eviction date was probably only 5 days. It was probably early April, but the sheriff recognized the vulnerability, so he pushed it out to April 11th, which was the absolute last day it could be. So I had about a week to try to figure out where my client was going to go, because he and his daughter had nowhere to go. I gave her a listing of housing, housing vacancy list, subsidized housing lists, and she was getting denied everywhere because of the eviction. So, to make a very long story short, I was able to get money from Dane County Elder Abuse to pay for a hotel or motel for him, which is where he currently is. He went on Sunday, and he is able to be there through May 1st, so I was able to get $2,000 from Elder Abuse to pay for 3 weeks of a motel for him. His daughter went to stay at a friend's house. They basically left almost everything in their apartment. I met the sheriff there on Monday, and, they changed the locks, and so my client and his daughter, can't go back into the apartment. And, that was kind of it for that. They were able to pay for a storage unit to put some of their stuff in that they wanted to keep. So, my client right now is at a motel, alone. His daughter comes over when she can, just to help him, but he's significantly declined even over the last couple of weeks just because of the stress of this eviction. We did a phone appointment with the ADRC to screen him for a family care program, and he does qualify. So the goal is that he will enroll with one of these managed care organizations and move to assisted living, which is what he has said he wants to do. So he qualifies because he's already on medical assistance. He qualifies functionally because of his neurological and cognitive decline and his inability to do a lot of things for himself. So that's where we're at right now. He's in the motel. They have free breakfast there, so that's a good thing. And the motel is not in Fitchburg, so we can't deliver meals to him, but his daughter is making sure he has food. And I'm calling him, checking in on him, and hopefully he'll enroll this week or early next week in a managed care organization, and then it'll be up to them to find him assisted living placement, hopefully very quickly, because he technically is homeless, although he's in a motel. So that's the long story short of this client. Any questions?
Because of lack of just any knowledge of resources for our elderly, and particularly elderly with no financial resources, when you say he'll need to enroll in what kind of program that will then advocate for him?
Sure, so family care it's basically a Medicaid waiver or Medicaid-funded, state-funded program through Medicaid that helps to pay for people to either receive care in their homes in order to stay independent, or they will pay for some assisted living for people who can't live independently in their own homes. So you have to qualify for medical assistance, and then you also have to qualify functionally, meaning your daily living skills, things you need help with. If you have a diagnosis of dementia, he's got neurocognitive issues. So he's not safe to live independently. So this is a state Medicaid-funded program that can help support him.
And then would that transfer him from your caseload to their, you kind of
Yes.
pass the baton over?
Yeah, the managed care organizations have a social worker or a care manager on the team that then would become the main contact person. So, I mean, for some people, that's not that big of a deal to transfer from one of us to, a different team and then us not have any contact with that person anymore. I mean, for this particular person, I probably will, at least just stay in touch with him and make sure that this managed care organization is doing their job. He does have his daughter, but she's 21, but she's pretty immature and doesn't really necessarily have a lot of responsibility. She cares for him she loves him very much, but she isn't capable, I would say, of kind of keeping that managed care organization accountable. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to talk about the police?
Oh, do you want
part
me
of
to
it?
give an example of, okay, so I'll be quick. So I'm half-time with the police department as of March 7th. The first month really was spent, which really actually is only 2 weeks if you think about the number of days, just spent kind of doing research, creating, our IT department helped create a database for me for my record keeping. I've been reaching out to different organizations in the community, like the Rape Crisis Center, Briar Patch, which is a youth organization, Joining Forces for Families, all of those kind of organizations that I've been aware of, but have never really had to connect with. Because with police, I'll be working with any age. It could be any type of case. It could be domestic violence, it could be mental health, it could be, I mean, just anything that the police, anybody that the police come in contact with. So just over the last couple of weeks, I've started to build a caseload and been getting referrals from officers. So for example, and this wasn't even there was no crime involved in this, but a 40-year-old young woman lost her fiance to a drug overdose. And he died in their home or in their apartment, and she found him. And so she was referred to me just to make sure she was connected to any outside resources, grief support, et cetera. She doesn't have family in the area, no friends. So with her, we've just been emailing back and forth a couple times a week. I'm just checking in on her, see, how she's doing. Are things going okay at work? Do you need any help, finding alternate housing because she wants to move out of this place that her fiance died. So that's one example of, there wasn't a crime involved, but she's a victim in a sense. And then another one that just recently, a 75-year-old man, so there actually have been 3 or 4 older adults that I've been connected to through the police department, so it's kind of meshing a little bit. But this particular guy is 75, he lives in an assisted living type place in Fitchburg, has dementia, he's an alcoholic, and he will go out across the street to a gas station and buy alcohol and then forget where he lives and doesn't know how to get home. So the gas station will call the police, and so they've had a few calls like that over the last couple of weeks. The assisted living wants him out because he's obviously not appropriate to be there. He has had some altercations with other people living there. He is part of a managed care organization, but through a different county. So the social worker who's working with him is having difficulty finding somewhere else for him to go because of his behaviors, because of his alcoholism. So I reached out to her just to say, hey, I'm here. Do you need help with anything? I'm not quite sure what my role will be with him quite yet, but I've gotten 3 referrals from officers about this particular person. So the job is the same. It's still doing social work. It's just working with different populations and different organizations than we typically work with.
And because that person is assisted living, like our Dane County funding would not want to fund that. We only are supposed to work with people in their own homes that are independent to keep them independent. So that would be a little bit of a different service that Sarah can provide through the police department. So, yeah.
Any questions? Net? Okay.
Do you have my PowerPoint? Okay.
It's white. I don't know if they can read it on the screen. So if you can read it or I can read it off my computer, Amy.
Oh, well, I wish I could say that these kind of cases were far and few between, but I think both Sarah and I, Katie's pretty new, so she hasn't come across this yet, but with hoarding and all of the challenges that go along with hoarding, I do have a female that's living in Fitchburg, and her husband was transferred to a nursing home early last summer. He has Parkinson's, and the house was in such a state that he could not move around, and, mobility is really hard for people with Parkinson's. So he was transferred. Right before he was transferred, I had elder abuse involved because the state of the house But because Dane County recognizes us as the contact, they decided they would have no involvement with this case, really. So it was up to me and whoever I brought in to collaborate with to try to find a solution. So, you can go to the next slide. So, this was in December. Her fingers were black she hadn't bathed in over 6 months. She was wearing the same jacket for about 6 months, and she smokes, and she had burn holes all the way down to her chest. Like, you could see marks from her smoking and not being safe. At this point, I had brought out crisis because I was afraid that the house was going to go up in flames from her smoking. They again said that she was fine, that she did not pose a risk to herself or others, so therefore there would be no open case. So once again, no help. Next slide. So this is her living room. And because this was taken prior to the end of the year, it only got worse. So this is, I think this is pretty bad. She sat in a chair and she had garbage all around her. All around her, down the hallway, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, in the basement, in the kitchen. She also liked to order things on Amazon, so packages everywhere, outside, inside, by the garage. Unopened. Next slide. This is the hallway, and you can't really see it really well, but there was literally cat feces everywhere. You couldn't step. But still, elder abuse and crisis didn't think that this was a problem. I did secure funding, ultimately, through Dane County, but it wasn't a whole lot. And as you can imagine, the amount of calls and time spent with a physician trying to determine whether or not she still had capacity. She was determined to have a neurocognitive disorder, major. Her power of attorney is still not activated yet. She's still her own decision maker. So here we go.
And you got money for what?
For cleaning. Yep. This is the hallway, her walking down the hallway with all the packages. She couldn't move. She literally couldn't move. Okay, next one. The cat litter box literally weighed 20 pounds because it hadn't been changed in so long. Yep. And then here is a snapshot of the cleanup. So along with some funding from Dane County, they don't fund, they can give up to $2,000, like Sarah had gotten $2,000 for Kurt, but for hoarding cleanups, they only give so much. And so after that, I was able to contact a family member who hadn't seen her in over 10 years. He was a little bit older than her. He had resources along with his brothers, and they decided to fund the rest of the cleanup. So it was really fortunate that we had that extra money. And we're also fortunate to have this woman in Dane County, Dawn Griffin, who does these kind of cleanups. And she cleaned that up in 3 days by herself. And she's over 60. She's amazing. Yeah, she did all of that. She was on her hands and knees. She got a dumpster. I think she took out 100 garbage bags. Plus, she saved all of the mail, things that we could go through to make sure she wasn't missing anything. And behind that little blue box, she's smiling. And she's wearing clean clothes. She looked like a totally different person. It's the clean hallway. You can now walk down it. So what did we do? We secured partial funding from Dane County for the cleanup. I can't read my second thing because it's yellow. What does it say?
Other sources of funding included, hold on, I gotta move my screen here. Oh, included generous extended family members.
Yep. And then we secured funding through ongoing care for a caregiver. So she has somebody coming in twice a week, kind of maintaining the house, which is really a help in helping her bathe. Enlisted the help of the physician, help from neighbors. There were a lot of neighbors that were calling, talking about it, helping at some point during the last couple years. This whole cleanup process took about 6 months. So she's still a current client and still has lots of needs. I'm working currently on getting her a guardianship of estate. Even though she gets Meals on Wheels and she has a caregiver, she'll spend $1,000 from Grubhub in 1 month. And the food just sits there and it rots. So she's in agreement, which I'm glad, and so that will be the easy part. But that's just one little glimpse into one client amongst many who have issues similar to that. So,
And this hoarding issue was not the same issue that got discussed at council meetings. If I'm sure Dave was in on some of those meetings. So these are not that uncommon.
no, they're not. There's so many. The thing that makes it easier for us when we're working with somebody like this is when they're agreeable to getting help. And I can say before her husband moved out, they were not agreeable. I'd call, they'd hang up, we'd go over, she'd shut the door, went over with the police, she'd shut the door, pretended she wasn't home, pretended she wasn't who she was on the phone. It was just like months and months of that. I would say about 5 months of that until she moved out, and then I was able to really get in. And, she looks like a different person now. She's happy, she's smiling. She wasn't happy before.
Just a comment, I deliver meals to that
Yeah.
individual, and it's been a world of difference in the last couple of months.
I know.
And it just seems like her whole attitude has improved. She's a little bit more upbeat,
Yeah.
a little bit more communicative. So I've seen some improvement there, a lot.
Well, she really looked like a homeless person for a long time. I mean, when I brought her into the senior center to be evaluated, you would think she was homeless. It was really quite sad. But she's doing great now. Yeah.
And is she even coming into the center? We deliver to her home also.
She comes in on Mondays. I have her working with our Edgewood student nurses, and she really likes that. And the caregiver brings her in, and then she meets with the nurses. So, yeah, she's coming in.
Amy, is this hoarding thing you talked about all the assistance that helping her clean
Yeah.
up and stuff, but isn't there a psychological aspect that needs to be dealt with?
There is, but for her situation, she wasn't historically a hoarder. Her husband got worse, and as her husband got worse, things started to accumulate. And then after he moved out, that was a big life change for her. She kind of just fell apart. So I would say for her that, yes, she has mental health issues, but not related to like the keeping of things. This was all, it all kind of came about with him moving out and a life change. It really affected her greatly to have him leave. I mean, she's only seen him twice in the last 8 months. Twice. Yeah, and he's over on the east side of Madison, so it's not easy for her to get over there. Yeah.
And I think just one of the takeaways is how hard it is to take away somebody's right to be their own decision maker. And that, is a good thing, but Wisconsin is really stern on, taking away that right. So in this situation, it really made it more difficult because you can make a lot of bad decisions and the state can't come in and do anything about that. And so, yeah, we tried. At this point, you feel like that she isn't making good decisions and that, guardianship would be a better route to go. But the doctor and crisis and elder abuse, nobody agreed with that. And in the end, again, I understand that, but Wisconsin is really stern on that. So it is hard when you get other providers like EMS or police and, what are you doing? Why can't you do, you can't, and you can see all the hoops that Amy had to jump through and just how long the process took because she is her own decision maker.
Yep. That's a success story.
Hi. So I'm Katie. I'm the newest case manager for the senior center, and I will do a little bit different case, maybe one that's not quite so dire. Right now, I'm working with a gentleman. He's 63. 6 months ago, he was still working. He had a factory job, worked full-time, had no state assistance whatsoever, paid his bills, didn't need any help at all. He called me a few weeks ago and said, my neighbor told me about the senior center. I really think I need a case manager. I said, okay, what's going on? He got COVID 6 months ago. So he has been hospitalized 4 or 5 times due to COVID and then the side effects. So he's had a few blood clots, he's gone into heart failure. So he couldn't work and went on short-term disability, and that has run out. So that ran out last month. So he's looking for a new apartment. He's not computer savvy, and he needs help with the whole process. He has no idea how any of the state services work or what resources are available. So he came in and we talked about his situation. I helped him, well, we're in the process of securing funding for a security deposit for his next place and a few months' rent through Dane Core, which is all online, so he can't do that himself. He needed resources for affordable housing, so I gave him that. He said he wanted to do it himself. He made all the phone calls, toured the apartments, but he needed help filling out the applications. So he's come in, and we go through the applications together, and we're in the process of getting him funding so he'll be able to move in June. Eventually, we'll probably need to help him get on Medicaid if right now he still has insurance and he's working with short-term disability. But if he's not able to go back to work, we're going to need to find a way for him to still have insurance. And, at that point, I'll be helping him sign up for food share, get on Medicaid, and kind of tap into some of those other resources. So it's ongoing, but that's my short one for you.
Any questions? I'm not answering that. Anyway, I think this just gives a nice little snapshot of just the variety of stuff that they do. This is really a little dream team right here for older adults in Fitchburg. I just, I could say without a doubt we have the best case managers, social workers in Dane County, because they don't stop until they find a solution, and that's what we're here to keep people independent and in their own homes, and keeping that hoarding client in her home, even though there was discussion about her moving. She wanted to stay there. Who doesn't want to stay in their own home? And so, they don't always take the easiest route. They take the route that's what's best for the client. So yeah. Thanks for all you do, guys, to make us look good, and I think people are lucky to age in Fitchburg.
One quick question, and you may not know this, but it seems anecdotally that there is an increasing number of people who have no body, that may not have family or neighbors that are actively concerned or aware of needs. Is that statistically true? Is there an increasing proportion of our population that is trying to navigate these issues without assistance?
I think it's been going on for a long time. I mean, I've been here 16 years, Amy's been here 18 years. We both used to have multiple clients that we were doing everything for. Scheduling doctor's appointments, taking them to doctor's appointments. They had nobody in their life, like you said, and they needed us to do everything. And that was, 10, 15 years ago. So it's been happening. I think it's probably is increasing now, yes, but it's not new.
Thanks.
And one thing I forgot to say about my example, the money that I got from Dane County, it was approved by Dane County, but it needed to be paid right away. So I actually got approval from Marcia and the Friends. So the Friends actually paid upfront the $2,000 for the hotel, and they will get reimbursed by Dane County. Because it was very time sensitive, I couldn't rent a hotel room for 3 weeks and say, well, you'll get your payment in the middle of May from the county. It needed to be paid right then. So, shout out to Marcia.
How have the demographics changed as people are living longer and we have more and more older population? Is your caseload growing? And what do you see that, in the next few years?
I think our caseload is growing a lot. We serve people that are not only 60 and over, but 50 and over. So we serve a lot of different people, and I think just in my time since I've been here, the caseload has grown. I think also with that, the cases are more complex. You're not just involved with just that person, but then all their family members and all of their history and what they're bringing to the table. It just makes it so much more difficult. I think we're seeing more and more complex things, and people are living longer. How many people did you call for our 90s party? How many in Fitchburg?
Oh, geez, a lot.
Like 30?
Yeah.
Over 30 people that are 90.
Probably, what is it, 5-6 pages?
Yeah.
Of people
So-
over 90 in Fitchburg.
Got a lot of people aging well for the most part here, living long.
Well, and also too, the advent with all the new senior housing, we didn't used to have that. It was just a rural community where people grew old in their own homes and we helped them out. But with people moving into the area because of the housing, oftentimes they don't come along with family.
Right.
But for sure, there's a lot less family support.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's hear, we just heard from, kudos to the Friends, so let's hear from the Friends now, Marcia.
Put myself unmuted here. The Friends met their usual meeting on the first Thursday, which was a week ago. The Friends are excited that plans are advancing for both a local bus service and a patio. The Friends supported clients of the senior center this is during March. The Friends supported clients of the senior center in the amounts of $50 for scholarships, which those scholarships are for exercise classes, and $157 for special needs, which was low for a long month like March. Already in April, we've had some significant needs. A member of the Friends Board resigned, so a new member is being recruited. And the board is discussing future social events, specifically something during the summer. And of course, we'll try to do something during National Senior Center Month in September. And that's the extent of my report. Any questions?
Do you want to say a few words about the travel program?
I'd love to say, to be honest, I don't know. We're going to have a travel show. I think it's in June. And I don't know what that committee is coming up with, but I did pick up that another date has been added to the schedule for visiting the national parks of the Southwest. There's such a wonderful opportunity. I guess the first date filled up, so they found another date. And I don't know how many are going, but the next trip that people have already signed up for, and including me, is in May, and that's to Holland, Michigan for their Tulip Festival, as well as going up to Mackinac Island and staying at the Grand Hotel, and then down towards Detroit to visit some of the museums, Ford Museum, et cetera. Looking forward to it.
If I may, my wife is on that travel committee, and the Southwest trip to the national parks in the Southwest did fill up really fast, and she was getting a lot of people calling in who would like to go on that trip, and they were put on a wait list, but the deal with the new date was that after talking to all of our Fitchburg people that were on the first date, asking them, would you be willing to switch to the later week? And they all said, sure, because there were 6 people on the Fitchburg waiting list that wanted to go. So this way, all 6 of those people could actually sign up. So the Fitchburg Senior Center is only going now on one trip to the Southwest, and it's August 25th to September 3rd, I think. But there's only one date that we're actually traveling on now. But it was very nice of all those folks that had originally signed up that be willing to switch so we could pick up more people. And there still are some seats on that bus, on that trip. So if there are more, people from the Fitchburg area that would like to travel and take that trip, there are seats available.
And they are going to fly to get there before they get on a bus. Is that correct?
That's correct. I guess about 10 years ago, the senior center did have a trip out there, but they bussed all the way from here out there. But no, not this time. We got to fly out there and fly back.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Thank you,
good.
Marcia. Any questions for Marcia? Okay. Next, report from the director.
Oops, okay. Lots of stuff going on in April, tons and tons of stuff coming in May. I'm not gonna go through the newsletter, but make sure you grab it in the senior center or go online. Let's see, off topic of the programs, Limerick is the new senior affordable housing down on Lacey where the roundabout is, and that is opening in probably mid to late summer. So we're meeting with the management company next week to just start to develop a relationship and get some more information about that housing, because it's not only apartments over there, it's townhouses, and I think it's mixed ages as well. So I'll have more specific information. We did have a meeting with the management of Novation Commons, which is town of Madison, just to start to educate them about what services we have available. Because those people that live there that can drive are more than welcome to come here, and that was one of the questions. But they're really, really excited to be, to eventually become part of Fitchburg. So we had also a virtual and live presentation about Terra Vesta, the new apartment complex going up near Uptown. And that's being, I'm not sure when that is being opened, but we had a good turnout. And that's quite a complex that they're gonna build more, I think, independent, and then maybe RCAC where you can add services. So that's coming down the pike as well. So I meant to mention that Katie is taking over a lot of the diversity portion of what we do in working with the Dane County diversity coordinators. There is a Latino coordinator, a Black coordinator, and most recently the county put in funding for a Hmong coordinator. So with Katie's work, we're bringing Hispanic bingo back in May. Folks are kind of ready to come back, and we're trying to do more outreach with the African American coordinator. And then we are meeting with the Hmong Institute next week. Now, I don't know what the Hmong population of older adults in Fitchburg is. I haven't looked at the census or anything. But I bet we have a few, and so I'm always happy to build new partnerships. So just trying to increase that outreach to all people. Amy's working with a pharmacy professor from UW to do an over-the-counter sort of program to educate people about how over-the-counter medications might interact with regular medications. And so we might be looking at just a small grant that the county put out that's available. So she'll be heading that up. Marcia mentioned the patio. I did not put the patio into the CIP. I made a decision that I would like to do the patio this year. And by us doing possibly a capital campaign, we have a little bit more autonomy about when we can do that based on when the work can be done. But I also felt like this is a really nice opportunity to bring some awareness to the senior center. It's a fundraiser that is very, the results are very tangible. I think that people would be excited about it. The Friends, we had a meeting with the Friends, and they would not be the fundraising arm, but what they might do is put some money into it, and then we would have matching funds towards it. So that's great. And so anyway, I'm working with Public Works to put out an RFP and just kind of start the process. And again, if you recall, we have to have architectural review by ProMega. So it's going to be a lengthy process that will have to go through a lot of committees. We're looking at about a 300 square foot patio. So I'll keep you updated. But again, I just felt like, Misty, the finance director, she coined the term, stuff and fluff. Stuff goes in your budget, fluff doesn't. Would you consider a patio fluff? I think it's more of a necessity since COVID and outdoors is good. But I also know that we don't have to have it, like we have to have a bus. And so I really want to put my energies towards, that issue is the transportation. So that's where that is. So kind of rolling into CIP, which is the Capital Improvement Plan, working with REC, because we do share a building, and some help with Fact TV. We did put some money was put in 2017 for an upgraded sound system in the Oak Hall. We used the Oak Hall for all of our exercise classes. We have big programs in there. When they were renting more, they would have, speakers, presenters, or whatever. We've been asking to upgrade that sound system since 2017, and it kind of gets pushed back in the CIP, and last year it was pushed back to 2027. So I'm asking to bump it back up to next year. It wasn't 2017 and then 2027. It was like 2017, then 2020, then 2022, and then 2027. So anyway, I'm asking that it get pushed back because we buy Bluetooth speakers. We do a lot of stuff on our own just to try to make the sound better up there. We put in money in the Fitchburg room, which is just that first room when you cross the hallway into the community center, for a ceiling projector as well as sound, because we're using that a lot more. Using, with the onset of Zoom and offering a lot of hybrid programs, Jeremy and Fact TV set us up really nice with a cart and a projector, but we're always using that too. So we really want to look at equipping all the rooms that they're just kind of Zoom ready to go, and projectors, and then Jeremy can film easily, and then we put that stuff on our website so people can watch it at a different time. And then we put in, so looking at the tables and chairs on the upper level. So those are used not just by us, they're used by REC, they're used by rentals. The tables were purchased in 2014, the chairs probably over 20 years ago. And it's just high time. We should have a replacement schedule in the CIP, which we don't. So we got a quote, and it was $52,000 to replace about 300 chairs, 20 tables, and some conference tables. So that's in the CIP as well. So we'll see where that goes. And then the big ticket item was the bus. I put in for $80,000 to get a 14-passenger wheelchair lift bus. And at this point in time, we're still just keeping transportation at the forefront. I don't know if that's what's going to come to fruition. I'm meeting with Andrew tomorrow, the transportation engineer, as he put a bus in too. Maybe, Dave, we can just slide 2 buses in and, council won't even recognize that there are buses coming from all over the place. But anyway, we are still scheduled to go in front of the committee of the whole on the last Wednesday of April to talk about the different options for transportation, which do include purchasing a bus, the city hiring a driver, purchasing the bus, and then kind of leasing it back to a contractual provider, or just going completely contractual. And also, too, are we looking at just the older adults? Are we looking at the whole city? So lots of questions still out there, but I feel really happy that this topic is still staying at the top of the pile. I think we've got some support for transportation. The Friends are behind this, whether we do 5310 grant money, which is federal grant money to buy a bus. They provide 80%. They provide 50% of operating expenses. And again, the Friends are happy to throw some money at the purchase of a bus as well. So anyway, we're moving along faster than I've ever seen it move along in the last 20 years that I have been trying to get transportation. And then even another bonus, not only do I stay on top of the city for transportation and advocate quite a bit, I do the same thing at the county level. I know that I have a not so stellar reputation of being very, aggressive about transportation, but I am. And I broke them down, and now we're going to meet today because the county has some ARPA funding that they might be able to put our way towards additional hours of transportation that they provide around that noon time. And so anyway, I don't know what that's going to look like, if they're going to maybe send 2 buses. On small days, we're transporting about 13 people. On the larger days, it's about 17. But just this week or last week, when we had a big group coming, they've got one bus picking, up everybody in Fitchburg, a couple different trips. The last bus didn't get here till about 5 after 12. The last drop off, and then they're the first ones to go home. So they had to eat and leave by 12:30. So they literally were here 25 minutes. Again, as I've talked to the county, people don't just want to come for a meal, they want to come for more. So I'm excited to see what comes from the discussion that I'm going to have this afternoon with Dane County, as well as our transportation provider, Transit Solutions. So who knows, I might have enough transportation to transport this whole city. So I will keep you posted on that. I'll quickly run through my list, and then we'll talk about Madison Metro too. Town of Madison, there's a nice plan that the city just keeps moving along. We have our first outreach meeting at the end of this month. It's in the evening at a facility or a location, I can't recall it, but it's open to all the residents that will become Fitchburg residents. And so we'll be just doing a quick they'll do a PowerPoint, each department will have a little slide, and then there'll be time for Q&A. I don't know how many people will show up. What I heard is some of the outreach being done, they reached out to some of the management companies of apartments, and they didn't even know they were being annexed. So there's a lot of education still to be done. So anyway, but we've got some time, but who would have thought it's coming. Aging Advocacy Day, just wanted to mention that. That's something that I'm involved in my legislative role, where there's just a day set aside to meet with legislators. That was prior to COVID. Now we're going to call legislators and just talk about issues that impact older adults. This is kind of organized by the Wisconsin Aging and Advocacy Network, which is comprised of agencies that serve older adults throughout the state. They pick 3 issues, they call them issue briefs, that we all sort of call about. And this year it's going to be caregiver support. They're trying to do a lot of tax credits for people that are caregivers that might have to use their own money, their transportation, take off work, whatever. The other one is support for ADRCs, which they talked about the ADRC, that's the Adult and Disability Resource Center. So that's what we go through when people need to go on Medicaid, food share, that kind of stuff. They do all of those screens, and they could use some more support. And the other one is voting, access to voting. While not any legislation that we need to advocate right now. It's just building the awareness that some of the voting legislation that is being passed really makes it harder for older adults and those with disabilities to vote. So that will be part of the discussion. So on the 11th, we'll be doing virtual phone calls. There'll be a training. If people sign up, it's in our newsletter. There's a training from 1 to 2, and then legislative calls are from 2 to 3. And so we're going to put the training up on a big screen if people can't do the training at home on their computer, so they can come in, do the training, and then use their own phones or whatever to call their legislators and advocate for older adults. And then lastly, we're looking at doing a COVID booster shot clinic. Public Health reached out, and they want to do a location here for those over 50. So I will keep you posted, but it probably will be in May. So we're happy to give them space to do that. And I think that's it. It's a lot.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Jill did send a link to all of the members for the Metro bus system. I don't know whether everybody had a chance to view that. It was sort of specific to Fitchburg, although they did get into all the Madison routes too. But one of the things that I think that I'm going to recommend is that, we as a body, the Commission on Aging Well, are sort of dedicated and are advocates for seniors and senior activities. And currently, the Metro plan for the redesign does not include bus routes down to the Fitchburg, down to the community center here in Fitchburg. The survey that you may or may not have done, I did, has a spot. Is there anything that you would recommend? And I think that we as a group who has been concerned about transportation for 20 years, I think that we as a group should advocate for the My Metro bus system to extend the B route all the way to the Fitchburg community campus, which that way, and that B route goes every 15 minutes. That way, everybody along the Fitchburg corridor, or the Fish Hatchery corridor, could get access to, first of all, and biggest concern for us would be the Fitchburg Senior Center, but it would also give them access to the library, which they currently don't have access to. It would also give them access to City Hall, and being concerned about good health, it would give them access to the Fitchburg Farmers Market. People who depend on public transportation don't have access to any of that. So I'm going to recommend that we. Oh, the other thing is, we've been talking about hey, bring the service down this way, will you please? And Jill referred in recently about the new developments, housing developments, but right along the B route, the Fish Hatchery route, we just had a new senior development called Highliner, I believe, and across Fish Hatchery, right on the other side of the road, there's another great big apartment building, and now they're talking about across Traceway, right across from the Highlander the other way, north of Highlander, they're planning on putting another apartment building up there. And I don't know whether that's senior housing or not, but at any rate, there's a lot of folks that could use public transport to this community center. So in addition to that, too, there's also the hub that's going up down there. which we be a good place for people to then come on down here. At any rate, I think that we as a commission should send an official letter to the Madison Metro bus system recommending that they extend that B route all the way down here. I'm sure the transportation engineers have ways of figuring out the times on how to make the timing work, but it's only 1.5 miles from the current route to here. And I'm certain that they could incorporate that so that people have access to the facilities here. So what do you think? Do you think we, as a commission, should send an official letter?
I would highly recommend it. I don't want to speak for Jill, but I would recommend it. To be honest, I don't know how successful we're going to be. I think the city, Fitchburg, the plan diminishes services, at least that's, when I look at it. But if we can't, keep in mind, say they don't go for it, Jim, maybe we could consider, if we get our bus, that'd be a point, kind of a pickup or a satellite point, that we be moving people back and forth ourselves. But I agree, let's try to get it down there.
And Dave, would the letter go to city council versus Madison Metro?
I think it should go to city council. We're going to vote on the either accept or I'm not exactly sure what the vote is. I'm told that we only have say on the Fitchburg portion of it.
Right.
Which I believe, the complaints that I hear from many people are, it's going to affect their access getting into things in Madison, which we don't have a vote for. But I think both one to Madison Metro and to council, I think would be appropriate.
Yeah, I think that we have a timeline issue too. There's only, I think, till the end of April that they're going to listen to anybody.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then they're going to make a decision. So that's why I wanted to make sure I brought it up at the meeting today.
And these changes, I don't think go into effect till 2025. Is that right?
2023.
Or I don't think it's next year.
No, at 20,
Oh, you went mute, Dave.
Dave, you're on mute.
sorry.
There.
I think like end of summer 2023 or August, September 2023. It's about
That's when they'll
15,
change the routes?
15, 16
Yeah, that's when the
months.
routes change, and then, but I think that the rapid transit portion is gonna take longer. They're gonna run the route, the B route, but it's not gonna turn to rapid transit until later.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
That's my understanding, but everything
Yeah,
is kind of
sounds
up in
like
the
that.
air right now, but, and I think that I would recommend that, if somebody is really good at writing letters, that they volunteer to draft a letter, and then we approve it via email. Would that be acceptable, John?
I think if and correct me for Robert's rules, but if you got to make a motion, and then we need to approve the motion to write a letter. Now, a final draft, I'm not really sure how that works. If we can just, you guys just agree upon that draft, because the motion really is just to send a letter, with saying, we recommend that the B route be a regular route down to the City Hall campus. So if the motion includes that the language includes that purpose, I feel like that's okay, but I'm not certain.
No, that sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds right to me.
Yeah.
And I think that we should give our rationale in the letter too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So someone want to make a motion?
The chair can't make a motion, I don't think.
Oh,
Can I hear a motion to recommend that the commission write a letter? That-
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Or is there any discussion?
Aye.
Okay, so we are going to write a letter and submit it to both the city council and Madison Metro System, right? Okay. Do I hear, is anybody willing to draft that letter?
Could I ask, Jim, you had some thoughts. Could you put a rough draft of that, send it out to us to send edits back? It's easier to respond to, even if it is a lot of edits, it's easier to respond more quickly to something. So if you just capture what you shared with us today, let us weigh back in or share our edits back. Could you do that?
I can try. I'm not a good letter writer. I can talk, but I'm not a good letter writer. But we're heading to for Easter vacation. I suppose everybody else is too. But if I get it out to everybody next week sometime, I think, would that be enough time, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think
Okay.
we could respond quickly to something that's already in draft form.
Uh-huh. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Jim, does the route right now, will it end at McKee Road? Is that where?
No, the route right now ends up, you know where Thad's Family Pharmacy is? Do you know where Thirsty Goat is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it goes right there. It's about a block from my house.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for Jill? I just want to say, in the newsletter, the prime times that we send out, Mandy put a thing in there, a special insert on happiness, and I just thought it was wonderful that you know, with all the depressing things that are happening nowadays, it was really great to have a little focus on the positives and what you can do, and she talked about the chemicals in your body that trigger certain types of happiness. I was impressed with it. I took that to our men's group, and we talked about it quite a bit. But if folks out there have not seen that, if you can get a copy of the Prime Times where it's online, I think that it really is kind of a boost, which we all need right now. So thanks to Mandy and the Senior Center for doing that. Okay. Any other announcements?
I did want to make an announcement that Alice Jensen has decided to step down from the commission, so we'll be looking for a new member to continue her term, which is 2 more years. So I just wanted to make that announcement. So, yeah.
Okay.
And then our next meeting, yeah.
Next meeting is May 12th, 8:30. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
I have moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.